in BDO. Whether I play this game every day for the rest of its time in existence or whether I never played it again at all. Over the course of a week or so playing the game, giving it a fair chance, I would say that I had a memorable experience that I will never forget.
This is, here, I'll hide this so that you guys can see. This is, okay, yeah, I've got my pen out. My first week in Black Desert Online. And again, like, I think that it's really good to get the perspective of a new player. Is that JJ? It's a guy. Nice try, though. It's really, really good to get the perspective of a new player and see what they're enjoying about the game, what their gripes might be about the game. And, like, it also helps as veteran players to kind of re-experience, like, oh yeah, I did think that. You know what I mean? Like that first time, you kind of forget. I wish I had like kind of a journal entry of like my first experiences in the game. So I'm interested here.
Online about a week ago, and I have to say it's an experience unlike any other MMO that I've ever played.
Yep.
So just to kind of put this in perspective, what has that experience been like? And
okay, before he starts on his thing, he's absolutely right. BDO is a great game for people that hate MMOs, right? Like we hate MMO, bro. I keep doing this Donald Trump thing with my hands. It's because I've been working on my Donald Trump impression so that I can do my Make BDO Great Again skit, because I have like I have the hat. I even have a podium. It's gonna be crazy, guys. Anyway, that being said, maybe I'm a little too deep into it, because I keep doing the like. You know, okay. Black Desert is a game for people that don't like MMOs. It's a super great first MMO for a lot of people to play. Super great first MMO for a lot of players to play. And like, because it's not like the other girls, right? It's not like the other commit to it. Well, I have a great Biden impression too. You guys want to see my Biden impression? He finishes his speech, and then he's like a Roomba. He's like, it's insane, bro. Insane. All right, it's just a joke for the politics. We love it. Okay, all right, as we were.
And why do I say that? Well, imagine this. I want a fishing pole. I don't know how to
stained chair. Well, when you jack off in it a lot, you know, it starts to get stains after a while. Just give it a break.
Get a fishing pole. So I figure out how to craft one by looking it up online.
Hello guys, welcome back to Chris Polly channel. Okay, do you enjoy watching my video?
But to craft one, I have to buy a house and hire a laborer. And then I go on to the central marketplace. Again, a mechanic. I have to look up online to find out where it is. And I buy the resources, give them to the worker, so the worker can craft the fishing pole. And by that time, I'm questing in a different town entirely. So I then have the fishing pole transported by wagon to a different town so that it's...
Can you guys imagine as a new player going, damn, I need a fishing pole. Let's make one. Guys, think about crafting a fishing pole from scratch and how hard that would be for a new player. Okay, just buy one. That's what normal people do, but he's clearly not normal. And again, we knew this because he logged into Black Desert Online. But like, This is like a raw new player experience because like the developers have not addressed that system yet. And so this is a perfect example of like a new player experiencing a system and being like, damn, this is like really hard, but also the game is really engaging and fun. You know what I mean? Like this is somebody that could really enjoy the game long term if he went to make a fishing rod, right? Because like 98% of players are just going to open the marketplace and just buy one, right? But like he was like, no, I want to craft it. That's amazing. You know what I mean? Great podcast. Thanks so much, Artemis. Welcome to the chat, buddy. Thanks for the follow. So like this is just a good perspective.
More convenient for me to pick it up there, just because I.
And then he transported it with a wagon, guys.
Feel like walking back to the starting town, and
I'm almost curious which guide he watched for that. There's like no guides.
Then I get the fishing pole.
Blade Bow Quest guide. In 2024. I'm not joking. It was probably like a Blade book. Like, hey guys, here's how you make your Balanos fishing rods. Like that shit would be crazy.
And an hour later, looking at the fishing pole, I realize you have to be, I think, level 10 to equip it. So I can't actually use the fishing pole. So then I break down and I just...
Oh, this has to be not. This is a nightmare. This poor guy, dude. Oh, this poor guy, dude. He goes through the trouble. He looks up a guide. He buys the materials. He makes it in a town that he has no idea what he's doing. He finally finds the right warehouse. He hires a worker, gives the worker the materials he needs, starts the crafting, gets the rod. It's not in the right city. He transports it over to a city that he knows, gets the rod out, and then it's like, your fishing level isn't high enough. It's such a relatable experience because like all of us have had that moment. Okay, every single one of us have had that moment in the game. For me, and I'm going to shamelessly admit this because I've admitted it before and people will call me out if I don't. My noob experience was I thought player housing was instance, guys. Or it was not instance, and that like only one player could own Heidel 1-1 on the whole server. Okay, so I was like, I'm gonna monopolize this shit. Here we go, baby. I'm gonna rock this shit. So like I had every single logic, everything that I could buy. I bought every single home in Heidel. I had 5 residences. I had like as much lodging as I could. All of my CP was dumped into to Heidel, and I'll never forget like the day. Like I had no idea, right? Like nobody explains this stuff to you, right? So I'm sitting in voice with my friends, and I'm like, and they're like, my residence is Heidel 1-2, and I was like, wait, how? I have residence 1-2, and they're like, oh, because it's just the one I bought too. It's just a really good house. And I was like, it all dawned on me at one moment. And I was like, oh, yeah, it is. It's a really good house. And then I uninvested all of my contribution to the same. It was, and nobody, no. Like we just moved on. Like I literally, it was the most brutal. I was like, okay, so I've been wasting. Okay, all right, that's fine. You know what I mean? Same experience with this fishing rod, bro. Same experience with the fishing rod. So crazy, bro.
Buy a fishing pole off of the auction house that I can equip, which somebody else crafted, and I equip it.
We learned an important life lesson.
I still don't really know how to use it, so that's another Google search to go online and figure out how do you fish in the game. And I learned how to do the mini game, learn what AFK fishing is, and come to an understanding of why there's so many people standing around fishing, because a lot of them are probably not at their keyboard, coincidentally, which is...
But they're not bots. Technically still a player. Okay.
Kind of interesting. But I say all of this just to kind of illustrate how there's so much depth to even something which is very simple like fishing. And let's just say, as an example, Elder Scrolls Online, if you wanted to fish, you would just walk up to a fishing hole and
Okay, that's his music. I was like, my God, that's loud.
press E, I think, and then you're going to catch some fish, right? Like, that's all there really is to it. It's not
What up, Agent Marine?
any kind of an in-depth mechanic. It's just a thing you do. But it's that way with everything in Black Desert Online. There's something a little bit more complicated about every mechanic in the game. Just enough.
You guys want 1.5 speed? I've never watched anything at 1.5 speed before. Let's see. Let's see what it sounds like.
Enough to be potentially overwhelming if you're not interested in.
That's a little far. That's a little fast. Let's do 1.25.
Studying it a little bit, and enough to be overwhelming to a new player potentially. But not anything, at least so far, nothing that's so hard to get your head around that if you do look it up, it feels like rocket science.
Right.
And you can
It's that sweet spot,
take
baby.
one specific thing at a time and just learn it as you desire to learn it. And it's not really overwhelming if you divide it up into bite-sized pieces.
Okay.
For example, yesterday or the day before, I just decided, I want to learn.
Yo, this is a good point. Where is his mount? He's been playing for a week. Just let it happen.
How to get a boat of some kind and go out on the water. So I figured out where I could go to buy a simple, trashy raft and went out on the water. And
it's another Tom Hanks and Castaway situation. I'm sailing out into the Margoria Ocean with my giant carrot, getting ready to go fight sea monsters. I look down to my left and there's this guy sailing out there. Wilson! You know what I mean? I'm like, do you need help, sir? Like, what's going on? Like,
learned that ships and boats have durability and some of them have a lifespan, and there's just a lot of different mechanics to sailing.
you know what he did was he got on that raft. He's like, okay, baby, it's time to go explore the world. You know what I mean? Bum, 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 and then the raft sank right as he hit Margoria. Tragic.
In the game. And then I learned about the quest that you do to get a actual sailing ship of your own, and kind of
Blue
read
Squadron
up on
boat guide?
how
W?
you would go about, maybe crafting better boats or something like that. And anyway, long story short, after sailing around a few islands on a trashy raft, I did the initial expedition quest and got my sailing ship and sailed that around the harbor. And it wasn't a big accomplishment, but it was something that was measurable, something that felt like a memorable experience. And I guess that's really what I'm getting at here.
So good.
Is the fact that in BDO, whether I play this game every day for the rest of its time in existence or whether I never played it again at all, over the course of a week or so playing the game, giving it a fair chance, I would say that I had a memorable experience that I will never forget. And that's not to say that it's the best experience ever, necessarily.
I have expected him to pivot super hard. I will never forget how horrible my experience with this, just like a 180 pivot, bro. It's crazy. So
it's not
wholesome.
to say that it's a perfect game, like for example, I'll just show you this just to put this in perspective. I mean, characters are amazing when you're looking at them in the character creator, but when you're looking at NPCs, the animations are pretty wonky. Let's be real.
Oh yeah, these people are crazy. Yeah, you go to your character customization, this shit's insane. You know what I mean? Like, I can see the pores on my character's skin. Look how beautiful my Dark Knight looks. And then you look at this and you're like, what happened here, bro?
I mean, what is this? What is this? The way, like, this dude is just sort of like swaying around and rocking back and forth.
He's not wrong, but also to BDO's credit, I think that the NPCs moving around and doing stuff in town lends to the immersion of the game because the NPCs look like they're actively doing stuff. Sure, when you talk to them, it does make it look kind of wonky and like their character models could be better, you know, but like it makes the city feel more alive when they are moving around. You know what I mean? But up close, I agree with him. Yeah.
And, you know, then there's this other doofus guy back here, you know, and the facial expressions sometimes are not all that.
We call that guy Zero.
Great, and the idle animations are sometimes not all that great. They are not terrible if you look past the jankiness and you forgive them, but are there single player RPGs out there that have better character animations than what you'll find in BDO for NPCs? Well, yeah,
absolutely. Yeah.
So is it a perfect game? No.
Please talk to them. Thank you.
There's also a stunning amount of beauty in the game. So as somebody who just enjoys hanging out in a open world, having a sense of exploration, being able to just passively hang out and feel like I'm existing in the world, it's a pretty incredible experience. And having played pretty much every other MMO out there, what I will say is there are a few MMOs still on the bucket list that I don't have any intention of making them my main game or anything, but I do want to play them just so that I can, I guess, check them off the list and say that I've given them a little bit of a chance. Yeah. So I know a little bit more about what they are. Like Star Wars The Old Republic is an MMO that people like a lot, which I have not played.
I did that when it came out. You're not missing anything. You're fine. Guild Wars 2 is a great game so far. I want to play a lot more of it. Again, I'm confused whether or not I want to play it on stream or if I just want to get to max level off stream. That's what I haven't decided yet. But like Guild Wars 2 is a great game. I want to check Final Fantasy is a game that I would call like a bucket list game. I don't really plan on maining Final Fantasy, but I kind of want the experience of playing Final Fantasy at some point. World of Warcraft is kind of like the same thing. You know what I mean? Like, and that's what we're going to do with OnlyFans.
Yet. I think Maple Story is a side-scrolling sort of an MMO that is somewhat popular, and I've never played that. There's
run.
The Secret World, a conspiracy theory sort of a MMO that's set in a modern setting, and that's also one on the list that I haven't tried. I love that he's talking to NPCs. Yeah, but pretty much, other than that, I've put some hours into just about every MMO out there, enough to have a sense that I understand what they're about. I have some sense of what their world is. I have some sense of things that
I do want to point out that some people, and I just did it again, and this is very intentional, guys. So I do want to point out there are a few people that get on my case because they listen to me while they're driving, and I take long pauses in my speech sometimes, and then they have to like look down to check, like it puts them in danger on the highway because they're like, wait, is the video stop buffering? Like what happened here? And I just want to say to those people that you really shouldn't be listening to me while you're driving.
Make those games good and things that make them you know, not perfect, and some sense of what sort of communities play those games by and large. And to be able to play pretty much every MMO and then come away with this sense that I've had an experience in BDO after now years of playing various MMOs looking for unique experiences, to have an experience that feels truly, honestly unique after all of that time is kind of an incredible thing. And it speaks to how much Black Desert Online really has accomplished when you put into perspective the fact that this is a game that has been around for quite some time. And despite a lot of MMOs trying to potentially replicate it or compete with it, they really just haven't. And, you know, to that point, recently, actually, what got me into BDO, interestingly, is Throne and Liberty. So, Throne.
I'm sorry. The irony of that statement was insane. The irony there was crazy. And you know that somewhere the Korean office is showing this to Jae Kim, and Jay's like, easy, baby. You know what I mean? Like, oh my god, dude, that's crazy, man.
Throne and Liberty came out, and I thought to myself, well, I want to give that game a try because it looks like a pretty game. It's a new release. It's a new MMO. I'm going to, of course, give it a whirl. And so I started playing the game. I thought it looked cool. I enjoyed the initial quests. There's a lot of things that I liked about Throne and Liberty.
Mm-hmm.
But I couldn't shake the fact that I kept on thinking about how, as I played Throne and Liberty, it felt kind of like it drew a lot of inspiration from Black Desert Online. But
don't say that. Don't blame the combat system for Throne and Liberty on BDO. That's that. Jae Kim not responsible for that disaster. That being said, I think that they did draw inspiration from PvP and like what not to do. You know what I mean?
all of the things that reminded me of BDO while I was playing Throne and Liberty.
They are two independent games.
Well, BDO does that better, though. And
that's what I've been saying the whole time. Like the combat's better, right? The professions are better, and like he's very clearly a solo player, right? Like BDO's just a stronger game. The reason why a lot of veteran players are playing Throne and Liberty, myself included, is because we feel that the systems, the end game systems in BDO, are just not super fun right now. And we're really, really hoping that they bring it around. And to be clear, Kirazad seems like a decent step in the right direction, right? Like we're headed in the right direction on this. I think that they can absolutely pull it out. Like, let's be honest, if you look at your starting experience with BDO and your starting experience with Throne and Liberty, and you're able to look at them as like objectively as players, I felt so much more captivated with the world of Black Desert Online when I started playing it. Now, granted, I didn't start playing on BDO release. I started playing on Steam release, but it was kind of like the same thing, right? Because like the Steam release for BDO was massive. It was just crazy amount of players playing. So like, but like there was just more to do, I felt like. And like, I don't know, like the game allowed me to play as a solo player more effectively. And although it's an MMO and I like to play other players or with other players, I did like to just kind of log in and explore the world myself too. You know what I mean? And I think that BDO does a better job of that. Like, yeah, it's just.
And so after I spent a few hours playing Throne and Liberty, that's actually what inspired me to say, why don't I download Black Desert Online again and give it another try? And to put this into context, I have been playing Elder Scrolls Online.
Shut up.
Consistently for quite a while. And what I would say about that is I think the world of Tamriel is a really amazing thing. And this is where I kind of pivot a little bit to talk about maybe philosophy when it comes to picking a MMO or picking what games I want to play.
Mm-hmm.
What's hard is when you want to kind of dabble in a lot of different things, but you also realize that those things are all similar enough that they compete with each other. You know, it's like I could say that I enjoy shopping at two different grocery stores, but at the end of the day, they're just two different grocery stores. You buy similar things there. It's not like one is going to be a dramatically different experience over the.
Good analogy. Good analogy. They are two very separate games. I think the reason that people compare BDO to Throne and Liberty is, let's be honest, it's a new MMO and we've all been playing BDO for the last 6 or 7 years. Of course we're going to compare the two. It's a PvP MMO too, which at BDO as its roots is supposed to be a PvP MMO. At least it was. And maybe not so much anymore, but it is what it is. But like, I think that Throne and Liberty complements BDO in a lot of areas that Black Desert is lacking. Number one, developer feedback. It's not even a question. Throne and Liberty wins in this category. The player suggests something, the developers do it, or they go bankrupt. PMA of NCSoft going essentially broke is that they have to listen to us or they're they have no money. Okay, BDO doesn't have that issue. And then like the dungeons, right? The amount of systems that bring you together and play with other people, right? One of the gripes that a lot of BDO players has, I don't get to play with other people very often. That's also one of the pros of the game is they like to be able to play solo a lot, but then they just don't have the opportunity to play with other players in an MMO. It's like a solo player MMO. People say this all the time. It's frustrating, right? And Throne of Liberty gives you that experience of like that traditional, okay, we're all going to get together for a lot of stuff. You know what I mean? And some BDO players are going to take like really well received on that. And other BDO players are going to be like, this game sucks. I can't play it by myself. You know what I mean? And the combat's not as good, right? So like there are definitely two different entities, but people are comparing them for obvious reasons.
Or the other. Yeah, it's a different experience, but they're still kind of the same. They're still just shopping experiences, right? So you've been to one shopping mall, doesn't it kind of feel like you've been to every shopping mall? So it's hard to think, okay, let me...
I agree with that analogy and I disagree. Because again, at the start of the video, he was like, damn, this is like, you know, normally I don't like BD, or normally you don't like MMOs, or like, you know, whatever. Maybe he didn't say that exactly, but he said something to the effect of like, you know, I like BDO a lot more than I thought that I would. Well, a lot of players that don't like MMOs do like BDO because it's just kind of a different shopping mall. You know what I'm saying?
Log in every day into a game where I grind monsters, gather resources, sell stuff on the auction house, etc. General MMO fare. And then I'm going to go log into a different MMO and do basically the same thing there. Like that's sort of the opposite of immersion. It becomes a chore. Now, if I play different games that are completely different genres, well, that's fine. I could play Black Desert Online, and then another time or later on, I could play, let's just say that I decided I wanted to play Cities Skylines. Well, okay, those are totally different. There's not really any overlap in the genre of a city building game and an...
Well, if you've been watching my channel recently, you know that I would say that Throne and Liberty is most clearly related to Dota 2.
MMO. It's two totally different things.
Inside joke.
But what I really want to get away from, though, is this feeling of similar games competing with each other in my mind for attention. And then instead of being immersed in one and fully invested in one, I wind up having more of a surface level attention to multiple, but never really be fully present and get a dynamic experience in one title. So I've been looking for, you know, a game that can be sort of a bucket that I can...
I'm so sorry. Guys, watch his character run. He's manually running his character around. This is not an autopath.
Just pick as, you know, that one MMO that I play and then maybe let go of some of the other ones. And the reason why I haven't done that is because there's certain things that I liked about one MMO and maybe not liked about it at the same time. And so you tend to think, well, I'll play this MMO because I like the combat, or I'll play this other one because I like the trading mechanics, or I like this other one because I like something about the lore or the open world.
Throne of Liberty shares a lot of similarities with Joe Biden because both are dead and no one knows it yet. That might be true, but that means that BDO shares a lot of similarities with Donald Trump because it's garbage and we have to make it great again. I can go both ways.
But the reality is, when I look at a game like Black Desert Online, where you could be engaging in dynamic action combat, fighting a boss, and in the same game, you could be having a chill experience, AFK fishing, or sailing on the open water, exploring little islands. It's something that just does seem like it kind of reasonably checks all boxes. So, going back to Elder Scrolls Online, there's some aspects of the design philosophy of that game that I just don't like. I don't care for the
digital icon.
Combat. I don't like the combat in
Nobody
Elder
likes
Scrolls Online.
Nobody likes the combat in ESO. Even the ESO players complain about the combat in that game.
It's just not
action combat
fun. No matter how much I try to enjoy the combat in ESO, it is my least favorite combat.
What's going on? Is anyone else appalled right now? There's no shot. I'm so sorry. I'm listening to what he's saying. I am. But we're a week into the game. We're getting onto a tier 8 horse, tier 7 horse. What's going on? Thoughts? What's going on?
Bad experience of any game that I've ever played. When you try to fight an enemy, it really feels just like you're whacking at the air. Level scaling, despite a lot of benefits it has, really...
My man, guys, my man walked from Velia to Glish, checked the stable keeper in Glish, realizes his horse was in Calpheon, and then manually ran without autopathing to Calpheon. Could have transported the horse in 10 minutes. Nobody tell him. No one tell him. Never mind the fact that it's the wrong horse. But here's the thing. I think that this is beautiful. I think that this is exactly how a new player should experience the game. No, he's not riding the right horse. No, he doesn't. He's not autopathing, and sure, it's not very efficient, but he's really enjoying the game. Like, clearly. And like, it's like one of those little things that you're like, damn, bro, this guy gets it. You know what I mean? Like,
hurts immersion for me. And it's very difficult for me to get past that.
Oh, look at him. He's not instant excelling, guys.
No, there's other games like Lord of the Rings Online. I love the IP of Lord of the Rings. It's amazing. I mean, who doesn't like the Peter Jackson trilogy? And sometimes I even like tab target combat because it's simple and there's a certain elegance in simplicity. But just to be real, Lord of the Rings Online is a very dated game in terms of how the graphics look. And much like ESO, there are
1.25 speed, guys.
Fundamental reasons why one might say I can like the IP and I can like the game, but does that necessarily mean I want to make it my main MMO? And that brings me to the topic of finding different ways to interact with IPs that you enjoy. So for example, maybe I really do enjoy the world building of Tamriel in Elder Scrolls, but I was thinking, you know, maybe a better interpretation of that appreciation for the franchise would just be to actually play Skyrim and finish Skyrim.
That's what I did.
Because the truth is, despite ESO's popularity, it wouldn't be popular at all. It probably wouldn't even exist at all if it weren't for the original Elder Scrolls franchise that invented the world of Tamriel and made it all possible. As much as I like Lord of the Rings, I don't necessarily need to play the Lord of the Rings MMO. Just like as a Star Trek fan, I don't need to play Star Trek Online to get the best out of that franchise. So simplifying things and taking into account the fact that there's a lot of different ways to interact with a franchise you love.
1.5.
I've increasingly been thinking I may well make Black Desert Online my main MMO, just because overall it seems like it might be the best MMO on the market right now, and offering a wide and diverse array of different things you can do in a beautiful, vast, open world, ranging from action to passive activities. And as for all of those other things, well, letting go of some of the other MMOs that have been on my tab.
I do want to point out that I feel like this is kind of like when you have a new player experience the game correctly, you know, like the way that they should experience it, they are absolutely loving BDO, I think. I think that new player experience is still like really good and very solidly gripping for the target audience that BDO is trying to hit. You know what I mean? I think that like people are always gonna look at this and be like, see, the game's fine, and no one ever said for a new player or a mid-game player that it wasn't fine. I'm curious what his take would be after 6 months. You know what I mean? And how he feels about the game after 6 months, because I would assume that he would still be having fun 6 months deep. But he would be approaching points there where he's like, okay, yeah, I don't like this as much or whatever, but we'll see.
Gives me some free time that I can spend playing some of those single player experiences that maybe I never got around to, like finishing Skyrim. And I think having dabbled in so many MMOs, one takeaway I do have is that being a fan of all of them, to a point, I've realized you kind of can't spread yourself too thin to where you're trying to be part of everything and master of none. And so BDO, it's a pretty incredible experience. And there's a lot of other games out there, but just like it's not a great idea to try to have a whole bunch of part-time jobs, you'd be better off having one full-time job. Even if it's not a perfect company, you're gonna have a better experience spending all of your work time doing one endeavor versus having a bunch of little side hustles and never really having a main one.
That horse just hit level 3. This is crazy. So he's actually just horse training right now by not holding shift and just walking around with the horse. It's beautiful.
I think
at his computer. Somebody get Ghost Regs.
Consolidation and just having one thing you're focusing on, it helps a lot in terms of just being immersed in that one thing.
Honestly, yeah, again, if Ghost Regs saw this, we might have to put him on suicide watch.
I think there's a lot to be said for the original experience of Black Desert Online, and I also think it's important to make, as a side note, a point to say that it does not feel pay to win. I mean, I've paid in the total of my lifetime $5 into Black Desert Online so far, and I have no problem doing cash shop transaction if I want to, but I haven't had any feeling that I needed to up to this point. And if I
put him on, he's on 1.5 times speed. Okay, so the game is 100% pay to win. It's not even a question. Like it's not up for debate. It's not up for anything. But his sentiment that like, well, I haven't felt the urge to pay to win in the game is exactly what I was hinting at on the podcast with Cannon and Stoops. Is that like in Throne and Liberty, I feel very incentivized to spend a little money, get a little power, get a little power. But in BDO, I never really felt that incentivized at the start of BDO when I played 7 years ago, and then today. Like I just never really felt that urge to go pay to win in the game. It's there. It's not a question. It's absolutely a pay to win game. Just because you're not paying to win doesn't mean that other adventurers aren't. But like, yeah, no, I see what he's saying.
I can spend several days in a game and not feel like I'm hitting any kind of a paywall or any kind of inconvenience that makes me feel like the game is cheap.
He hasn't started grinding yet. Let him get to the pets situation.
To me, that's a win. So I definitely recommend it. I'm definitely intrigued by it. And as for other games, well, I think I probably am going to stop playing Elder Scrolls Online. Probably going to stop playing Lord of the Rings Online. And I'm probably going to...
way better game than this. Way better.
Play a few more single-player games. Single-player games like Skyrim. Those non-MMO RPGs. Where it doesn't matter how quickly or how slowly or how infrequently you play them. And I'll make peace with the fact that you can love a franchise and not love everything about that franchise. I can be a fan of the Lord of the Rings and not feel like I want to play the Lord of the Rings Online, or not be a huge fan of, let's just say, Amazon's Rings of Power TV show, but really appreciate the books, or really appreciate...
Rings of Power is... It gets like a 5 out of 10 because it's in the Lord of the Rings universe. The plot and a lot of the action scenes kind of suck. But like, it's solid. I liked it. If you just skip all of the parts with the wizard guy and the little shy children running around, just skip all of those little people. The little people. You just skip over all that shit. And you just watch what happens with Sauron. Get all the other shit on that island. No one gives a fuck about that either. No one cares. You just stick to the Sauron. The show is actually solid.
The original movie trilogy. I could be a fan of Star Trek.
And don't the little people. No, not like that. Not like that.
But not have a passion for one particular Star Trek TV show like Deep Space Nine. One TV show in the Star Trek franchise that just never really clicked with me. And that's okay. And that's something that it sounds obvious, but it's something that I've had to come to terms with. That sense of feeling like, well, I want to be loyal to the franchise, so I guess I'll play this game because it's part of the franchise. But you know what? You don't have to necessarily play a game until the end of time in order to be loyal to the franchise that it's part of. So will I always be a fan of Tamriel and the Elder Scrolls and...
That's how I feel about BDO, you know what I mean?
A lot of the artwork in there, yes, absolutely. But does that mean that it's the best MMO to play every single day? Well, not necessarily. And as far as the best MMO goes, well, I think BDO feels a little bit like... It feels like, you know, if we were going to compare an MMO to a relationship, it's like that person who you always shrugged them off and thought, well, that wouldn't be a good fit. And then you cycle through a whole lot of other relationships and people that you think would be a good fit, and none of it works out.
It's like Meredith in The Office. You know what I mean? Like, you're like, yeah, I'm not going anywhere near that. You know what I mean? And then you end up like 6 years in, Daryl's drinking at the Christmas party, and he's like, you know, I never noticed Meredith's kind of cute. Like that. That's how he just described Black Desert. You know what I mean? Like,
and then, you know,
everybody else is so garbage.
You find yourself just, you know, on your ass, and then you go back and you kind of look through your contact list and you think, oh, well, like maybe I'll reach out to this old friend who I haven't talked to for quite a while. And then you realize, wait a second, like this person is amazing. Why did I not see that from the very beginning?
Because they're ugly. That's how that works. Yep. It is what it is. You know what I mean? Black Desert, amazing personality. So great. Okay. On the surface, though, pay to win MMO, Korean grind, you know what I mean? Like, deter, everybody's constantly complaining about the game, like, don't want to be around it, and then you get into it, you're like, man, this game has an amazing personality. If only they weren't fat, you know what I mean?
And interestingly, Black Desert Online is one of the very first games that I actually knew about in the MMO space. It isn't a game that I gave a lot of time to, but it is a game that I knew about just because it had certain cool aspects of it, like character creator that was very pretty, and it was known for having sort of a diverse array of things you could do in it and a broad open world. But it took me a while. It took me a while to slow down enough to actually look at it objectively and realize that the game has a lot more to offer than I initially had realized. So
that's good that he realized that. Let's face it, the only ones that have a huge problem with the game is the PvP community. PvE have issues, but not enough to leave the game. Okay, so that's just wrong. And we're going to disprove that right now. Let's do it right here. Okay, so I think that everyone can understand that the PvP community is a small aspect of the Black Desert community as a whole, right? It's a smaller amount of the MMO community as a whole in general. And if you look at the percentage of players that we've lost over the last, since the start of 2024,
just resubscribed for
you're
6
looking
months. Hi.
Well, this is like 11, 13 and a half. Okay, we're at 21, 46, 57. We're looking at almost 60% of the player base. Okay, that's not just the PvPers. Over 60% of the player base has left in the last, since the start of 2024. You can't tell me that that's the PvPers, right? The PvEers are absolutely upset with the game, and the progression-based players are upset as well. You know what I mean? Like, I think life skillers are the only group that's kind of just unaffected because they don't care about anything, you know. Gravo, welcome back for 6 months, man. Appreciate you. Thank you so much, man. Thank you. Because, like, they're not going to get anything better in any other game, and they don't ever complain, so it is what it...
If you haven't tried it out, I'd recommend it, definitely.
Yeah.
But otherwise, it'll be interesting.
That's 60% of Steam players, though. Oh, I forgot. Some of you are stupid. Okay, so when you guys look at this, you do need to understand that this chart only represents Steam players. That is correct. But what you're looking at is the trend on the graph. And so when Steam loses 60% of its player base, you can assume that the launcher is somewhere within that margin. Maybe not 60%, but it's definitely headed downhill. You're looking at the trend on the graph because it represents a large portion of the player base. Like
to see where the journey takes me. Anyways, till next time, as always, thanks for watching.
That was incredible. That was a great video. This is from a Raccoon Republic. I'm going to link the video here so that you guys can go interact with it. I strongly recommend going to check this guy out. That was a really, really good video. And that was like a raw new player experience. Yeah, go give him a sub, guys. He's only at 637 subscribers. If all of you go sub to him right now, he could be at 1.6. I'm just saying. And like that was a good video. I loved his take. Sure, we had to watch it at 1.5 speed, but that's something that you can adjust, you know what I mean, in post. Like, it is what it is. Fresh take on the video experience. Yeah, that's kind of what I'm trying to watch.